Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a book review on Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. So a brief synopsis of this book is that Selena, who was enslaved in Dover, gets taken to meet the prince because the prince wants her to be his champion and compete in this competition with other people to be the king's champion. So she has to go to the castle and take all these tests to be the king's champion. And a lot of things happen while she's in the castle. But for the non-spoiler people, I think that's enough. So without further ado, let's get into the book review. This is going to be rough, but we're going to try anyway. So, 2-minute recap in 3, 2, 1. Selena gets escorted to meet the prince by the captain of the guard. She accepts to be the prince's champion for the king's champion and travels to the castle in Rifthold. She meets Philippa, her servant. Selena overhears an annoying girl, and that annoying girl ends up being Lady Caltan, whatever. Selena is also going by Lady Lillian as a jewel thief because no one wants to know her real identity in the competition. So we meet the king and the rest of the competitors. Then the competition, training, and the tests begin. So during this, Selena befriends Nehemia, who is the princess of Elway, and people in the competition are getting murdered. Ooh, crazy. So then she befriends Knox. The queen wants Dorian to get married. Calton is using Parrington to get with Dorian, and she's trying to keep Selena away because she thinks Selena's with Dorian. Selena saves Knox from Graves' sabotage. Selena finds a secret passage door in her room. Then Elena, the first queen of Erelia, comes to her dreams, tells her she needs to win competition and uncover evil in the castle. And she gives her the Eye of Elena. And I was like, yes, okay. Parrington wants to hold Nehemia captive to make the Elway rebels cooperate. Kane reveals to Selena that he knows the truth about who she is. King's forces kill 500 Elwyans. Selena finds weird marks under her bed, so she goes to clean that up. Selena goes to the ball to watch Nehemia because she thinks Nehemia is evil, and she ends up dancing with Dorian. Parrington tells Calton about who Selena is and tells Calton to drug Selena with Bloodmane. Selena finally finds out that it's Kane. Then the BC summons the Rider Act, attacks her, but she kills it with the sword in the crypt, which is Damaris. She tells Nehemia everything after Nehemia applies first aid. It's finally Kane and Selena in the final duel. Selena drinks the glass with poison. The duel commences. Things happen. In the end, Selena wins. Cal kills Kane because Kane tries to kill Selena after the duel, and then Selena signs a contract as the king's champion. Oh, I can't do this. We're going to have to upgrade it to 3 minutes for the next book because there was a lot happening. When Selena is a book lover, and while I see this as a ploy to make her more likable, I enjoyed it. That's the fact she enjoyed reading books because obviously, because I'm reading a book, I enjoy reading books. And so she was like, libraries are full of ideas, perhaps the most dangerous and powerful in all of the world. And I'm like, yes, they are. Next, when Selena speaks in Elway to Nehemia, and it shocks everybody because she's speaking in Elway. Another one is when Kale is like, ugh, Selena is so annoying, she has all these contradictions. And I'm like, yes, she is. All these contradictions, they irritate me too. I'm glad you noticed. Ugh. When Selena hits the bullseye on the first test, and that's the farthest bullseye, and she obliterates the middle, I'm like, yes, Selena. There are a lot of cheeky and flirty moments between her and Dorian, and there are also enjoyable moments between her and Kale. This whole triangle I'm going to talk about later, but there were some cute moments that I enjoyed. I loved how she kicks Varen's behind after he says his disgusting comments, and then she goes up to Brillo and is like, I want some real men to fight because that wasn't a challenge. I was like, finally, I want to see this fire all the time. Selena's relationship with Nehemia, it's probably the best relationship in this book, so I appreciated that it was a friendship and not a romantic relationship. That was the strongest relationship. And I liked that she was there for Nehemia when Nehemia told her that 500 of her people were murdered. And I liked how Nehemia was always protecting her with all the weird marks and summoning Elena at the end. Dorian gives Selena a puppy and candy for Yulemas, which is sweet and cute. And her teeth turn red, and I'm like, your teeth are red. And then at the ball later, when Dorian and Selena are dancing, some guy goes up to Cal and is like, I think Dorian's in love with Selena. And I was like, ooh, Maybe. When she tells Nox to leave because she cares about him after finding out what kind of creatures are lurking, like the Rider Act, and how Kane is in charge of the Rider Act. And so I was really happy that she was able to share that so Nox could get out. And that also eliminated the need for a final test, because once he left, there were only 4 champions. At the duel, when both Cal and Nehemia offer their weapons, Nehemia's like, take this wooden staff. Let it be LOA wood that crushes them. And Cal's like, take my sword. Choo, and it has like the dragon on the thing. And I'm like, yes. But she ends up taking the wooden staff. I really liked after she beat Grave in 2 minutes, she said, here's a handkerchief, because his nose was bloody. So she was like, here's a handkerchief, clean that up. And then my final favorite moment was when Parrington betrays Calton, and the manipulative woman she is, and she gets arrested for poisoning Selena. I'm gonna have to go there. There were a lot of things in this book that frustrated me to no end. There were a bunch of contradictions that kept creeping into the book, and I was like, no, either she's this or she's that. She kind of can't be both, and I need you to figure it out. And I also was tired because there were some moments that I felt were extremely underdeveloped, and moments that were forced. But one of them, starting from the beginning, is that at the very beginning of this book, this author keeps emphasizing and mentioning how attractive Selena, Dorian, and Cal are. Like, that does not matter. Why are we talking about, oh my gosh, she's so attractive. Oh my gosh, she was attractive, but she lost her. There's no need to keep forcing it. I feel like at the beginning, it was trying to push the romance too much. And romance, she developed the romance well throughout time with dialogue and things like that. But all these little background things of thoughts, those weren't really necessary, and they didn't help progress the romance. In fact, they made the romance feel more insta-lovey. So I hope that's not in the second book. I did not like Duke Parrington, and then at the end we find out that Duke Parrington and the King and Kane and now Calton are in on this like weird marks for evil thing that I'm going to talk about later. But from the beginning, I did not like Parrington at all. Another moment I did not like was when Dorian demanded to see the scars on Selena's back. So he's like, lift up your shirt and show me your scars. I was like, no. If she wants to show you her scars, she'll show you her scars. Don't be that ignorant prince that's asserting your control and demand to see her body. That is her body. If she wants to show you her scars, she'll show you her scars. Leave her alone. No. Sarah J. Maas, we get it. The castle is glass. There's no need to say, oh my gosh, the castle is glass, and then, oh my gosh, I can see straight through the castle walls. Oh my gosh, we're on a throne of glass. The glass throne. His hands are on the glass, and they're being seen through the glass. We get it. It's a glass castle, and there's a glass throne. It's the name of the book, Throne of Glass. We get it. And no need to keep going on. So another thing that really got to me was they kept using the phrase, by the weird, or by the word, or however you pronounce the word. So they were like, oh, by the word, oh my word. So you can use that term, W-Y-R-D, but all of a sudden you add marks to it, or word marks, and all of a sudden it's taboo. So I don't understand, why is that word taboo if they're using the origin word in everyday language? It makes no sense. So here we're going to start talking about the contradictions that I keep seeing in this book. In the book, Selena says that she knows better than to underestimate her opponents. Yet, pages before, just pages, when she was first meeting her opponent, she's like, none of these people are in competition. I mean, they should just crown me as the King's champion, because none of these people can compete with me. I was like, but you just said that they were this, and then you're saying that. You need to make up your mind. And then another thing, she was like, oh, Selena, I'm out of shape. But then she's like, I'm not out of shape. So are you out of shape, or are you in shape? Make up your mind. I can't deal with these inconsistencies. It's like she said something and then she changed something, and I was like, was there not enough rereading to catch all these times you contradicted yourself? You can't say the sky is blue in one sentence and then 2 chapters later say the sky is red. Is the sky blue or is the sky red? Is her hand gray or is her hand green? There are things that need to be consistent, and some of these things were not consistent, and it was annoying me. Another thing, I ended up growing on this relationship, but when she was first helping Nox with throwing the knives at the target, I was like, why are you helping Nox? This is a competition. You don't help your competition. You win. If you want to win, you need to make sure that you're the best. So you shouldn't help your competition. Yeah. I think this is my biggest critique, and this critique is that I don't think Selena is wise enough to be an assassin. And the only time she demonstrated that she had like the right stuff mentally to be an assassin is when she was analyzing Varen's body. But for countless times, she thought that the murders were being charged by Nehemia when the signs were clearly pointing to Cain, which I didn't like because I felt that that was too obvious for a reader to get. I like being surprised to the fact that it was Cain. I was like, well, duh. Number two, she keeps letting people sneak up on her. Like, she's in her room and people just enter while she's asleep and she's not awake. And it's like, dude, if you're an assassin, you should be awake. If someone enters your room, you should know it. Number three, like, there are just constant things. Like, she should have known those poisons. She shouldn't have needed Polar to test her, because if you're an assassin, you have to know how to kill people. And one way to kill people is with poisons. So you need to know how they can kill you with poisons, which I'm going to get to later in this discussion. Randomly, all of a sudden, Sarah J. Maas mentioned Sam, who is Selena's ex, and she just dropped in the word Sam. There was no graceful weaving of his name. It was just plopped in. And not only that, but we were like, who is Sam? Until a sentence later, it's like, oh, this is who Sam is. I was like, if you're going to introduce a character like that, you need to gracefully weave that in. So then another contradiction is when Selena says, I've altered the door, so if anyone opens it, I'll hear it. And then Dorian sneaks up on her. How? If you're an assassin and you've adapted the doors that they squeak when someone opens it, you should hear someone enter the room. I don't care if you're playing the piano, you should hear it. Otherwise, you are not as good of an assassin as you claim to be. Because, as I mentioned before, a lot of times people just enter her room and she's asleep. She doesn't do anything, she doesn't react. I was like, how are you an assassin? Fix it, honey. Another reason why Selena is not having the right chutzpah to be an assassin in my mind, like, she's not developed well enough to be as smart as an assassin should be, is when she doesn't immediately connect the evil Elena is talking about to the murders. It's obvious. A lot of things were just so obvious to the reader that she didn't pick together. And I was like, if you're an assassin and you're like the greatest assassin known to mankind, I expect you to have good instinct, good intuition, and good thought to understand and connect these dots. And I don't want you to connect the dots almost at the end of the book. You should have already connected the dots right there when Elena said there's an evil. You should be like, oh, people are getting murdered. That's for the evil. Boom. Calton is annoying, okay? And so Calton has a drug problem. She is addicted to opium. And she, for some reason, in all her grace, thinks that she is better for Dorian. Thinks that she knows what Dorian needs and what he wants. Girl, you need to worry about yourself, okay? That irritated me, okay? How can you, addicted, tell Dorian that, oh, he shouldn't be with Selena because Selena's not a lady enough? Excuse me, what? Should we just tell everybody about the problems you're having? Because I don't like when people do that. I don't like when people are like, oh, you're not worthy, but then they do some stuff, and it's like, no. So then Dorian and Selena are dancing. Dorian is dancing with her, and he's holding her hand, and Dorian's like, oh my gosh, her hands are so soft. But then literally, pages earlier, her hands are calloused. So what are they? What are they, Sarah J. Maas? Are they soft or are they calloused? Tell me. Let me know. Tell me right now. Link, comment. Are her hands calloused or are they soft? Let me know, because I'm tired of these contradictions. I already talked about this, but how Selena was so dumb to think it was Nehemia that was behind the evil rather than Cain. The duel with Cain. That made me very upset. So the fact that she was poisoned and she didn't know she was poisoned, I did appreciate how Cal was encouraging her and telling her to get up, and how Nehemia summoned Elena so that Elena could come through and help Selena so that Selena could beat Cain. But the fact that she willingly drank the wine, the fact that she willingly drank the poison in the wine, after having a poisons test, after understanding how she missed Bloodbane, I would expect her to have more intellect and to remember what happened and what the problems were so that she could prepare for that, right? It's like when you're taking a driver's test and you speed up and you almost hit something. Now you learn, oh, when I'm doing that, I don't need to speed up, I need to slow down. That's how human beings work. You make a mistake and you learn from it. She didn't learn from her mistakes and that ended up poisoning her. When the king was like, I don't even know if I should give her this contract because as my champion, you need to be able to identify poisons. And I was like, you know what, King? This is the first time I agree with you. You're right. Because if you cannot identify bloodbane, what else can you not identify? What else are you incompetent at? You are supposed to be the best assassin. I expect better. And because I'm not getting better, I'm disappointed. But I'm undecided. So this new title is I'm Undecided. I'm undecided about a lot of things. This new category is about things that were my favorite moments. They weren't yikes moments or sad or angry moments. I'm just like, I'm undecided if I like this, if I don't like this. What do I think about it? So without further ado, let's talk about it. So when she finds the secret door, I'm undecided about this because we end up talking more and more about magic. And I never got magic from this. So let me take my handy dandy laptop and read to you the synopsis of the book to see if you can gauge that magic will be in this book. Now, despite the fact that magic ended up being well woven, and I think it made the book more enjoyable, and that's why I think I'm going to read the next book, it was nowhere mentioned in this. So I'm going to read this right now. And this is the one I get from Amazon. So, no mention of magic here. No mention of magic. Once again, no explicit mention of magic. If you are all of a sudden going to just drop in magic as a huge component of the book, that should be mentioned in the synopsis. That should be like, oh, she's in the castle and she's developing this magical sense. I felt like I was deceived, and not deceived in a bad way, deceived in a good way, because I ended up liking the magic, as I said before, but I was not expecting it. And when a reader opens a book and they open it expecting to see people kicking each other's butts and they end up getting magic, they're like, whoa. So then, this brewing love triangle, this trope, it's just, okay, so both of the guys have their flaws, which I'm going to talk about later, and both of the guys are good to her, but the whole love triangle thing and the whole fact that like they're best friends, it just seems unnecessary. Like it could be that it's not as well developed as it could be right now, but right now I'm like, if you and your best friend both like the same girl, usually that means that you both cannot date her because friends are first. Friendship never ends. That is why. So it's just, the love triangle was forced. I didn't feel like it was necessary. A lot of things that happened with Cal could happen with Dorian. A lot of things that happened with Dorian could happen with Cal. And so I feel like this unnecessary love triangle makes the book not more interesting, but more confusing and difficult for the reader to actually focus on the assassin part and the magic part, which I feel are much better parts to be focusing on than romance. Even though romance is nice, it's not the main premise of the book, and she spent so much time focusing on the romance that we didn't even get to see most of the tests, which I would have appreciated. Dorian. I'm undecided if I like him, because at one moment he's sensitive and he cares, like when the rebels are murdered and he's like, how can I even face Nehemiah after what my father did? Or he's like, how am I supposed to be a king when there's so much evil in my armed forces? I was like, wow. But the fact is that some of the times he's just plain old insensitive. Like when he's like, oh, I'm mad because my dog didn't have purebreds. Or when he's bothering Selena because Selena feels bad and he's like, come on, you can't be feeling bad. Just get up. I was like, no, that's insensitive. And the last thing that I'm undecided about is about the king, how he understands word marks. And if he understands word marks, then why hasn't he used this to finally smash out all the rebellions and all the other things and to assert his dominant control? It's a bit of a loophole, and I hope in the next book we conclude what it is, but I'm undecided if I like this aspect being mentioned at the very end of the book or not. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. So number one, when she is led to see the prince at the beginning and she sees how opulent the building is and she's seeing how much the king and the prince and all of Aralea is benefiting off of all of her hard work that she's done in Endover, I think this was shaking the table because Sarah J. Maas is saying that people benefit off of other people's labor and they're not paid well for their labor, or they're not paid at all for their labor, and that needs to stop because it's wrong to take other people's hard workings away from them and then to benefit from it and not return anything back to those people who gave you all of those things. Calton, as I already mentioned, I don't like her, but I do like what she represents, and she represents the pick-me woman, in other words. The woman who tears down other women to make herself better in the eyes of men. And just like how Selena says, I hate women like that. They're so desperate for attention of men that they'd willingly betray and harm other women. And I was like, wow, that's really indicative, and that's something that we need to be cognizant about. And I like that she included that. Elena said that history remembers her as a damsel in distress rather than the warrior that she actually was. I thought that was important because a lot of times in history, we omit or exclude important information, pertinent information. That's full circle, and I like that Maas included that. And then the last moment that shifted the table for me was when Selena finally tells Nox who she is, and Nox is like, "You're a girl?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know, people think I'm older." I was like, wow, that was a good way for her to be like, why are you focusing on the fact that I'm a girl? You should be focusing on the fact that I'm not as old as most people think. So I think that this was not only attacking sexism, but also attacking ageism, which I appreciated, because a lot of times ageism is only targeted towards older people, but ageism does also exist for younger people, and so I'm glad that Sarah J. Maas included that. So I think because Selena keeps thinking about Endover, that eventually she is going to help in the uprising and free those enslaved in Endover. Next, we have this brief moment where they're talking about Dorian's eyes and how Dorian looks nothing like his father and doesn't have his mother's eyes. So I'm thinking, is he not the king's kid? Possibly, maybe, who knows? We'll find out. Obviously, it was Cain. Like, if you've noticed that before a duel, someone dies, someone in the competition, which means someone in the competition has to know who's in the competition to kill them strategically. Boom. If you sing that he becomes stronger and you didn't think he could get stronger, obviously red light should be flicking, okay? Red flag should be waving. You should be thinking of something. Also, the fact that his name was Cain gave it away a little bit too. And also, Cain had the black ring, which we're going to talk about later. And I want to find more, hopefully, we're going to find out in the next book, what the black ring symbolizes and how it's controlling energy. Nehemiah, it was a weak diversion, I would say, because obviously Nehemiah doesn't have any of those negative pent-up attitudes towards Selena, because the weird marks under her bed were obviously for her protection. Every time Nehemiah showed up, the weird marks came back, so obviously you should be thinking, oh, she's putting the weird marks under my bed, and nothing's bad happened to me, so maybe it's for my protection rather than trying to kill me. Secret passage out of the castle. I believe that Selena and Nehemiah, and probably more members of the gang that are converted to the side of overthrowing the king, are going to escape that secret tunnel to incite the rebellion. Woo! So the black rings that the king has, that Lord Parrington has, that Cain had, I think those rings have something to do with the plan to use the weird marks for evil and bad. These are unresolved things that I just want to re-mention in case we end up seeing what happens in the next book. So when Cal is saying that the king went on a journey and he took a bunch of people with him, and then he comes back without those people, I think those people were either not real, like they were like illusions, or they were possibly people that he left there to finish inciting whatever weird marks he planned to use to control the rebellion. And then when Selena at the religious ceremony, how she gets Deanna, the huntress and protector of the youth, I think that's going to come full circle somehow. Okay, so that concludes my book review. Obviously, I had a bunch of issues with this book, but because the book became more enthralling and I became more and more drawn in while I was reading it, I do think that this book has potential, and that's why I'm reading the next book. So if you like this book review, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment about what moments you liked, what moments you didn't like, see if you're seeing the same things I was seeing, go ahead and do that. Make sure you click that bell notification so you don't miss out on when I post. And all that's left to say is, bye-bye.